All right, welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Sound Bytes. We are so fortunate to have Niklas Olsson here, who is the founder of Klaro, and it is on what we market it as Klaro app, correct?
Yeah, well, you can say Klaro. That's probably
Klaro?
It was hard to get the main URL, so...
I know, I googled it and I was like, what is this industrial design thing? But Klaro's disrupting the marketing industry, right? It's looking at target market. Is that correct? Or
I would say what we're about is we're a tool for people to perform numerical tasks. So particularly if you don't have a financial or technical background, say you need to do a business case or an ROI or anything really, and you find yourself struggling in a spreadsheet, then you should come to us instead.
If you're not a freak in the sheets.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, that's another topic.
That's another topic altogether. Yep. Yeah. No, but what I've known you for a few years now, and not too intimately, but
on and off.
On and off. But what I love about your journey is this isn't the first time you've been a founder. And I didn't actually know it. You mentioned before this, you're 5 times founder at this point.
That's right.
But I remember meeting you in your last business at Premonition that got acquired by ShipIt. And just seeing that business grow and where it went to and everything like that, and then seeing you launch this was always quite inspirational to see from afar, right? And just as I know, like you and I actually have some similarities coming from a marketing background, but I think you've taken that to the next level to whereas I went down the sales path in my own career.
Yes.
Typical narcissist over here, like talking about myself and everything. But but just looking at what you've done, and particularly with Klaro, which I think we're going to dig a bit deeper, it's quite fascinating. And to me, when I saw it, it was kind of like, why hasn't anyone else done this? It's like one of those things that it seemed like one of those simple ideas that should have been resolved already. So,
yes.
All right, tell us a bit more about Klaro and why you invented it.
Yes, I mean that could be good. That's a good spring off because I feel like our mission is to make the world of numbers accessible to people. So you don't need a technical background or financial background. You should be able to use numbers in your thinking and your decision making, and you could almost say, like, if we succeed at that and do that, I believe what we're going to create is going to be the most obvious, non-obvious things. Like, you sit here now and like, you look back and go, that was obvious, but it wasn't that obvious. And you can ask yourself why. And part of the reason is spreadsheets has been around for 40 years and they are the catch-all for everything in a business. Like if you need to do a project plan or you need to calculate something quickly, or if you don't have the tool, you can kind of probably use a spreadsheet to do it. And I would say what we're trying to do is to take one of those use cases you would use for a spreadsheet, which is numerical task. Like it could be a forecast, it could be a back of the envelope calculation, it could be an analysis of a situation, and we want to turn that into its own product. So I don't think we're replacing spreadsheets. Like they are going to be around forever, and they're this catch-all for pretty much anything. But we just happen to pick the biggest use case, which is to work with numbers, and we want to do that really well and kind of in a modern sense. I think the simplest way to think about it is Canva for numbers. Yeah,
that was when you just explained it to me. Then that's exactly what came to my mind. Canva for numbers, right?
Yes, that's right.
So how did it come up?
So if I look back at my career and I look at the best decisions that I've ever made, they've always had some level of quantitative thinking, some numerical analysis or model. It's not the be-all, end-all for the decision, but if you can model out your scenario and what your assumptions you're basing it on, and then see, if all this comes true, here's the end outcome, here's how much money we're going to make, or here's how much profit it's going to result in. You can then start challenging that and go, well, what if this assumption was different? And we can change and move the dials a bit and see in what world does this decision not make sense? And I think that's been super powerful. And when I look back, the only people that could really do that with any sort of repetition and do it well were people with a finance background or a technical background. And it's not like people who work in creative industries or sales or recruitment or anything like that don't have numerical tasks. Like a good example is we're helping a bunch of e-commerce players now do things like they get wholesale deal requests. So if I'm selling online and maybe David Jones or someone says, hey, we want to stock your product, you got to work out, does that make sense? Like how much would it cost for me to fulfill that? They have 60-day payment terms. Will I have what would that do to my cash flow?
Yeah.
So if you want to assess this growth opportunity, you need to do some model around it. And this is the kind of stuff that they would wrangle in a spreadsheet and kind of either don't do well or just flat out say no because they can't process the request.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of things that we're picking up on and people use our tool for.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fantastic. So much just comes to mind there when I sort of picture it in terms of, and for me, you know, as a business owner as well, like and founder, you kind of like have that sort of generalist approach. So it's kind of like you know a little bit about everything to have your business run. So the idea of like having those numbers and that sort of almost like quantitative level of analysis to make those decisions. Like I'm never going to spend time doing that's just not my skill set.
Yes.
Like I did accounting at school, at uni, even some sort of finance, but I was just sitting down doing the numbers side of things. It's like I didn't like it.
Yes,
I did
that's
like
right.
solving complex mathematical problems, but anyway,
I mean, you love chess, so that's a mathematical problem.
We'll get into that. Don't worry. Yeah. I love the game of chess. I think chess is a game of decision making played with one other person, and it's like, but it's also like, I'm going off topic here, but it's also like, if you're good at chess, you have all the information, right? You can see all the information, so you can actually play a perfect game. I like poker better, but like because you don't have perfect information. But the chess is usually like if you can. It's very hard to beat someone who's better than you at chess.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Like that's always like that level of skill set. So like you can actually, if you get good at chess, you probably experience it, like you can get bored at it because unless you find someone who's better than you to give you that challenge. So, sorry man, I went off topic then. Going back to it, but as a business owner, I can understand those things.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
If I look at a spreadsheet, if I look at my profit loss statement, when I sit down with my accountant, I know exactly what she's talking about. I don't have to go through it, but I'm never going to sit there and do one.
Yeah, that's right.
My skill set, not what I'm good at.
No, it's like what we find is like there because the world of numbers is so big.
Yeah.
Like there are so many use cases. There's reporting type stuff where I just want to see metrics on a weekly basis and then maybe interrogate them.
Yeah.
There is the BI side of things where I have a data set and like let's work out what our best sellers are or something like that. And then you have the kind of ad hoc stuff, which is like forecasting or business case, or I mean, in your case, we were talking before around expanding your business. Should I hire, get another talent into the business? When does that make sense? Like what do have to be true in the market? How much can we pay them? How much do they have to bring in, etc. There's a lot of these things. And what we find is that business owners, yes, they might have an accountant. In fact, most of them do. But they feel like they're almost trapped by that because they want to make the numerical decisions themselves. They want to feel confident that I know why we're investing this much, or I know why we should pursue this. They have the ideas, like we should grow in this way, we should grow in that way. And they don't like the idea that they have to go back to an accountant and say, hey, can you run the numbers on this? And then they come back and like, well, not like that. And what if we did this? What if this was true? And then because accountants are used to like everything has to fit and it's got a certain framework of debit and credit and a certain ledger codes, like it's very static and it's more reporting on the history and what's happened before. But many decisions are like, hey, what if this in the future? So say they send you back a crusty old spreadsheet and you like want to change some cells, like what if this change? Then suddenly the whole thing breaks and you're like, well, man, now we got to have a meeting, I got to sit down. Like it's just very, it holds people back. And so a part of the ambition with Claro is to give people that power themselves and be able to experiment and try these different scenarios. You might have an accountant who helps enable you. They might build building blocks in the product and some true and tried artifacts of like, these were your sales last month and these were your costs. And like, you know they're audited, they're correct, but then you can use them in your decision and work out what to do and try lots and lots of different things. And in a spreadsheet, if you try one thing, you break the other thing and then you can't really experiment. So ours is built all around that experimentation and a lot around content, which is how the whole idea started. I posted on LinkedIn, did some content posts, and it just blew up. And that's also a big part of the solution, which I'm happy to talk more about.
So how did that happen? That. So did that sort of content post, because I saw that when you talked to me about it, because I struggled to get like 10 likes on my post. And you come along and you said, oh yeah, I did a post and there were 2,000 on LinkedIn trying to shut me down. I was like, what? How did you do this?
Well, this is because I'm really funny and you're not funny.
It's true.
Yeah. No. It's like, I think it's stroke of luck in some way. You're seeing the same pattern repeat itself now, like year and a half later, where people are doing similar mechanics to me. Part of it is mechanic, part of it is just I gave genuine value. And I suppose it was a bit of luck. But yeah, the way it started was I started to this problem of numerical thinking is very powerful. Not a lot of people apply it. If they do, they get massive benefits. Why are they not? And then you start playing around with that problem. And one of the first ideas of trying a solution was to build templates on Google Sheets.
Yep.
So pick a use case, design a template for that use case that is like very well thought out, that has not only simplified and abstracted away a bunch of complex things you have to think about, formulas and stuff, and made yellow cells where you fill stuff in, but also designed beautifully. Like, I got a design background, and as hard as it is, you can make a spreadsheet look at least not shit. Yeah. So I did kind of that and put it out to the world and said, hey, here's one for market sizing for startups, which is a common thing you do. You do a bottom-up approach, or you can do top-down, but bottom-up is obviously the preferred one. And I created this template like, hey, you can enter some stuff and you can work out how big your market size is. And I thought this could be helpful. So what happened was I posted that, and we got like 3,500 comments. Yep. So people just like all over this, which was a bit for me like, well, okay, isn't this basics? But people said, well, no, this is actually so well structured. Like, even just like, I know how to do it, but structuring it in the spreadsheet is a mess. Like, I can't even structure it correctly. And if I do it this way, then I have to rejig and it doesn't work. Yours like does it well. Or yes, I do know how to do this, but I don't count people going through it. Or, hey, I do, but like, this looks amazing. I can share this with my investor because it looks great. Yep. Like, if I do, it looks like shit. And I can't share that. Yeah. So there was a lot of, and then you sort of double click into that. I did another post, which got 7,500 comments, which was a cap table management one. So I did sort of one, I thought it was maybe it was a one-hit wonder, but then did it again and realized, okay, people really like this stuff. And that led to the idea of pursuing Klaro as a whole. And I could see the vision, but also the idea of content playing a huge role in the solution, where people don't want to start from scratch. You don't want to, like, even if you know what to do, it's like, oh, I got to build again. And if you look at where AI is going, in the future, you are kind of not going to be a creator. Yeah. You are going to be an editor. You're going to ask AI or find some sort of creation point that's going to cloud was basically taking the cost of distribution to zero. You can distribute software for free pretty much. Then you have AI taking the cost of creation to zero. You can create anything with very little effort. Okay, the quality is not maybe as good just yet, but you can see it's just rapidly improving, but the cost is still cheap. So cost of creation goes to zero, you become an editor. In the world of numbers, what does that mean? Well, it means that you're not going to open a blank spreadsheet anymore. You're going to open a blank canvas, pick a starting point either through an AI collaborator or through templates you built yourself or templates you find that we have built, much like the posts we did on LinkedIn, and that becomes your starting point, and then you're meaningfully editing. So you can kind of rethink the experience with that in mind, and then if you do that, I doubt that a spreadsheet is the best way to do things. Then there is a better way to do it.
Yeah, I love that when you shared that with me the first time. Obviously jealous of all the likes on LinkedIn, but that's another thing. But the actual Google set, and it just reminded me of like one of the fundamental tools that I learned as from these two business coaches, Jeff and Kane, and one of them was sell before doing.
Right. Yes.
The whole thing of most successful entrepreneurs do that. They have some sort of thing where they can sell first before actually developing an MVP or developing a thing. And it sounded like what you did then. Well, you built this as a hobby sort of thing, threw it out to market, tested it first to see if people, there was a buy-in there, and then you discovered there was some sort of market there and some sort of uptick from other founders and startup owners to use the product, right? Yeah,
that's right. Like I subscribe to that a lot. I mean, I was like, what's the fastest and cheapest way I can try and solve a problem in this space of numbers? And then that happened to be a good path to start on. We tried other things before that also led us down to do this experiment. But and not only did we say, hey, does this potentially work as a solution, but we also had an upsell. So if you downloaded free, you got the first template for free. We had a whole pack of 30.
Oh, wow.
And it was just a simple email. Hey, if you want the whole pack, pay $15 or something. Yeah. It was like a very simple upsell, like very, very basic, not optimized, nothing. And 5% of people paid for that. Yeah. And I was like, really? You'd pay $15 for some templates I just did? Like, okay, well, clearly you want to spend money on solving this problem. So then you go from there. But yeah, you should always try and hold yourself to a very high standard to identify a problem that people actually care about.
Yeah. Okay. Love that.
Yep.
Love that. And yeah, that first tool was I played around with it, and I think I want to use it more. But it's just like looking at that total what you were talking about, top down, the total market, the TAM. So what's this total area market?
Total addressable market.
Addressable market.
That's right.
Yeah. And then it was super easy. Like I could be like, hypothetically, let's just say, $1 billion recruitment market out there. I can put that in, and then break it down into like my space competitors, and just play around with it as well.
Yep.
And just the visual aspect was like awesome.
Yeah, I think the visual thing stood out, and then I learned a bunch of things that also was still difficult, which is why I kind of came across the idea of doing Claro as a new standalone product. I always thought, a spreadsheet, we'll just build on top of spreadsheet, this is great, and we can build a template engine, we can do a bunch of things. But then when you start talking to people, they would write me emails saying, hey, I need some help. I was like, all right, let's get on a call.
Yeah.
And they bring up the spreadsheet, and I go, what do you need help with? So this is in Australian dollar, I want it in US dollar. And to me, I'm like, you just multiply by the currency conversion. I don't know how to do that. And I was like,
right.
Okay. But you just said, I'm afraid I'm going to break it. Can you do it? I was like, sure. How much would you pay for that? A couple $100. Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And then there were more of these that to me seemed like very simple edits to, it's 95% there. The whole template is almost done everything. You just got to make some tweaks. And then people feel not confident even making the tweaks because they feel like as soon as I get into the spaghetti here, the whole thing is going to fly off and I'm going to break everything. So that, to me, I'm like, wow, we almost got all the way to solving your problem. And you just had to put, but then okay, people don't like this format. There is something to it that just makes it overly complicated.
Yep.
So maybe we should try and come up with a new form factor and something that's simpler. And as we started doing that, then we realized that yes, actually there's a lot of these people and a lot of use cases where people find themselves in this trap. And
I think it's just like when you uncover these problems as a business owner, for someone like yourself who's in it every day, you're like, that's just a simple thing. But to a business owner who looks at it, they're like, of course, it's like being a mechanic. It's just like, I don't want to touch that. I don't know if it's going to fuck the whole car up. You know what I mean? Yeah. But maybe it's just like, your battery thing's just connected, or your radio cap just slipped off a little bit or something like that. I just don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's awesome. But that is such a great way as well of like adding those, I don't know what your business model is, but just adding those extra sort of value adds or probably like a standalone. What's the sort of business model for Claro? Is it a SaaS product or is it freemium with add-ons, and how do you sort of have you sort of come up with that idea yet?
Yeah, the political answer will be like, we're working on it, we're thinking about it. The real answer is like, I have no idea. But the focus for me is, can we deliver a shit ton of value to one person? And if we can do that, can we do it to 10? Can we do it to 100?
Yeah, awesome.
And then once we're very focused on just, can we solve that problem in a super meaningful way that is very, very highly valuable to them? As we do that, what would be the best way for us to then get our fair share of because if the value is big enough, then customers have no problem giving you a small share of that value that was created. But if you're too focused on, I'm going to take my share, it's like, well, right now I'm focused on delivering value to our users and our early customers, and then we'll figure out a way how to charge for that. And I think the characteristics of what is the business model, it needs to align incentives. So whatever dimension customers are benefiting from, we should align ourselves and our cost model to be aligned with that. So if they succeed, we succeed. And I find sometimes people pick pricing models that are just not compatible with how users find value in the product. And then you end up kind of like in this battle where users want to use it, but you want to charge, and then you charge in weird ways where users go like, well, I'm just getting sticker shock here because you're just charging for something I'm not getting value out of.
That's
and
right.
Like, why do I need per seat model? For example, we could go with that. Maybe we find that, actually the best way is to scale with the amount of data on the platform. So if you bring more data on, then it becomes more valuable. So we charge in line with that, as opposed to just free, have unlimited seats. Or maybe we find that seats is the way. Who knows? Like, there could be many ways. Yeah. And given that our product will be heavily AI centric, maybe it's around how much do you make use of your AI coworker in there. When you log into Claro, you can use it for free. You have everything in there. But if you enlist your coworker inside of Klaro, which is an AI-powered coworker who does a bunch of work for you, maybe you should pay them a fair share, you know? I don't know, there's many new models to explore.
Yeah, it's funny, like we have a podcasting tool that I use for the podcasts for online, and I don't do many online podcasts because I just find it's so much better having someone in here, much better connection and stuff. But when I do them, we use this tool, but it's a SaaS model, monthly thing, and I'm like, I only want to use it now, and then I don't want to. Then I'm not going to use it for a few months. You know what I mean? So
yes.
So I just cancel it and then I start again. So
I mean, that's a common one. That's a common one, right? Like, I mean, I know there are many other products that are like that. I know I have friends who worked at Canva, for example. They have a similar scenario where people there's a free model, and then, I need something that is watermarked. Okay, I use it for a month. Yeah. And I pay for a month to do all my work, and then I don't need it, which is maybe fine. Maybe that's okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. So what about, the journey to date to Klaro now? Where are you at? So we sort of talked about the problems, what you solved, and problems of what you guys solve.
Yep.
But how's the journey been?
Right, yeah. So to string together kind of the stuff shared already, like we started off looking into the problem, like looking back, best decisions always has some quantitative thinking to it. Not everybody is afforded the ability to use that. If you don't have a financial technical background, love to stare into that problem. It always starts with a problem for me. And then try low-cost, fast solutions on various aspects to learn and kind of tease out what is the issue from people, which led to the idea that, there's a whole bunch of people who are just not applying themselves through the world of numbers in the way they want to, because they have to navigate through a minefield of spreadsheet cells, and other tools are not fit for purpose. So they're unhappy with the situation, there's a problem they want to solve, and then we built those templates, built a Google Sheet plugin on the marketplace. It's still around. If you want to go to Google Workspace Marketplace, you can download it. It's like this thing that you can have next to your sheets, like feed content in, like benchmarks for conversion rates and things like that. And then you're like, okay, that doesn't work. And then you try another prototype. Spent maybe 50 grand or something in total across various prototypes. And you learn a whole bunch of things about what doesn't work. And then I also came across the insight that this is a very hard problem. I mean, a spreadsheet engine is like a mathematical engine that calculates and updates, and you realize, okay, we're going to have to build our own, because if you build on top of a spreadsheet, you're stuck with the spreadsheet way of working. So we've got to build our own. Right. It's not the most simple computer science problem to solve. Okay. And then you learn that, okay, this is a big product, this is a big effort, there's a big market and a big need. And if you look at anyone else who's built in the space, similarly, say a Notion or an Airtable or the like, which is like a productivity tool, Notion is not like, hey, this is very good for writing job descriptions. It's like, no, this is a tool to write documents and to store knowledge. You can use it for tons of things. Similar to Klaro, it's a way of you to work with numbers that feels friendly, that feels educational, that feels fun. You can use that for lots of use cases. So if you have a kind of problem and a solution that looks like that, they tend to take a long time, because Notion took many, many years before it came to the fruition, came to what it is today. So you stare into a very big problem with a long horizon that's very difficult to solve. Okay, what's the best way to go after that? Well, you need a small team of very highly capable people, and you give yourself some runway to solve for that, which is when we decided to go out and look for capital and found some good partners in that. And where we're at now is a team of 4. So it's me, Farley, Cogs, and Vershan, a small team of what is essentially engineers. I'm proud to say I'm an engineer, but I'm a very bad one. Yeah. I would say maybe I'm a better designer, but
you have the design and marketing background, right?
That's right. Yeah. Industrial design. Yeah.
Sorry.
So we're a small team, and we probably want to meaningfully expand it a little bit more. But that's the motley crew that's going to try and solve these first few years and find the form factor that works. And that's where we're at. And where we're at now is we have a wait list of 7,000 people. We brought some on. We're working with them very closely, and we're looking for design partners who go, man, if I had a tool like Klaro that I could use to solve all these things, we find that e-commerce is a very good example where I need to respond to all these wholesale requests, and if I respond to them, maybe I can grow my business. Or Father's Day is coming up. What promotions should I run so that I maximize my sales? Or should I move warehouse? It doesn't make sense. Should I upgrade to Shopify Plus? Like they have all these things that if they solve any one of these, they can grow faster. So we're looking for these people that find themselves in a similar situation where, wow, I have all these things I'm like trying to wrangle through a spreadsheet and solve. I would love to do something easier and better. And yeah, we're looking for those kind of people to work with very closely.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you touched on the small team, the founding team that you were mentioning. What's your approach to building that team?
Well, you've seen a lot of people build teams. In fact, you help build teams. So I'll have to return the question at the end. Yeah, that's what you do. That's literally what you do. So I feel like maybe you should answer this in one way. But I guess if I give my approach, we've been very deliberate to build a small team. And I find that small teams are nimble, small teams are closer together, and small teams cost less as well. So when your main thing is to try and find product market fit, and you have a limited runway, then try to maximize that runway, still with a meaningful enough team to be able to make a difference. But the worst thing you can do is hire a bunch of people, and think that's going to solve everything. So keeping it small. I'm also keeping it very senior this time around, because the problems are quite difficult. They're quite novel. So it requires you to have, it's almost like you've been in your career where, I don't know if you can relate to this, but you go from imitating to innovating. For the earlier parts of your career, you're learning, that person did this, I'm doing this as well. 100%. Learning about yourself. And then you're at a point where I have a good grasp of stuff. I can start charting my own path and applying my own self. It's almost like it shifts. It's not like you stop imitating or you never innovated in the first place, but it shifts to you primarily doing that. So people who are in that phase of their career is like a perfect fit for us. Like someone who just starts that shift, which means someone who's senior, they can apply themselves to difficult problems, they can think in many different dimensions, they know themselves enough to reason that, I'm being biased here. They have enough emotional intelligence to be okay with feedback and call themselves out. So I think that's what we're aiming for here, to keep, I think that's a good fit for the problem we're going after. So small, senior, and well compensated. So when you have a smaller team, you can afford to compensate those who are in the team better and more fairly. And I think that's very important. Startup is a long journey, and anyone who joins at this stage should get a meaningful share of whatever potential spoils they come. Yep. So I think that's also very important to me.
Yeah, okay. And when you say meaningful share, you're talking about sort of equity packaging?
Good base salary, high equity stakes, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
That's right.
You touched on a few points there in terms of the characteristics and targeting the seniority of that sort of founding team. But I think what you were touching on there is more so values and then the approach they go about solving problems. And I love what you just said about you go from imitating to innovating. And when you go into that sort of phase of innovating, it's like having that competence and confidence to become that.
Yes.
And a lot of that innovating does come from making mistakes, and also having what you touched on, emotional intelligence to either pull yourself up or be open to that sort of level of feedback as well. What do you think have been the values of Claro that you look for in these people when joining?
You put it perfectly there. That's the competence and the confidence. If I look at values, I think it's very important to be values-led. And a lot of people say that because of the obvious reasons, it drives cohesion. We know why we're here. This is very aligned with producing great work. The kind of things that I think people mostly associate with why you should have values. That's good. But I specifically want values from the beginning, because values is kind of a yardstick for who do you want to become. So if our mission is why we do what we do, and if we are successful, that's the fruits of common good we're going to produce for the world. The values is who do we become in the process. We spend a copious amount of hours pursuing this goal, and if your only goal was we're going to solve the problem and deliver value to customers, it's a waste of time. You should also be deliberate about you as a person should become a better person. When I walk out of the office, I'm a family man, or with a friend, you should become a better person in those situations too. Like, and you're spending so many hours at work, why is that not making you a better person? So if I look at our values, they're almost like, this is who we strive to become as a person. And one of them, we have 3. One of them is mindful intentions. So when we make decisions, we are mindful about why we're making them, and we feel like we know why. So we're not making a decision unless we know why we're doing it. And it could be a thing like, it doesn't have to be black and white, where we do some numerical analysis with Claro and say this makes sense because these cold hard facts. It could be a scenario where Farley, for example, the other week we talked about some architectural decision in the product, and he had an approach what we should take, and we questioned him like, oh, why are you taking that approach? Like, well, I've seen this before, I've seen this scaled this way, this doesn't work here, okay, why do you feel that way? And what it amounted to in the end is like, I have a gut feel based on my prior experience that this is how we should go about it. That's cool. That's mindful. You've checked yourself and seen this is why I'm doing it. I found myself, as an example, on the other end of that another week or so ago, where it turns out that I said we should do this, and then team was like, why are we doing this? Oh, it's very important. It's like, okay, why is it important? Oh, it's for customers. And it's like, okay, which customers? Who? Like, oh, well, plenty, like these ones. No, but name who? And then as we dig deeper, I realized that the reason why I'm saying we should do this is because I promised the customer that this is going to happen by a certain date.
Right.
And I'm emotionally attached, and I feel adverse to going to that person and saying we shouldn't do this. And the process, because we aim for psychological safety, and I feel very comfortable sharing that, yeah, you know what? I'm making this decision because I'm emotional about the fact that I need to tell this person it's not going to happen by this date. But the best decision is not to do it. I agree. So that was like a very good example of where we were trying to be true to our values and unearth a better outcome. Yeah. So I think that's what we mean by that.
I love that. That's such a great mindful intention. It's funny, like what you described there is like that act of mindfulness. I forget who it was, but a lot of people think like mindfulness is, the meditation sort of thing.
Right, yeah.
But the mindfulness is actually the acknowledgement that you're not being, that what you just described then is like, why am I doing it? So it's like the mindfulness is bringing yourself back to that conscious choice. So mindful intention is like, all right, we're doing this for a reason. What is that reason? Or why am I not doing it? Oh, I'm not doing it because of that psychological safety.
Yeah.
You've got to get over that to deliver the best outcome.
Yes.
So that mindful play is that moment of inflection, which can be brought on by your team. It could be brought on by yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, cool.
And like honestly, if you think of this if you scale this value out to the world, if everybody became more mindful about why they're doing stuff, the world would be a much better place.
I think it would be.
And so it's like we strive to be that person, like not just at work, but also everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. What are the other two?
Side by side is another one, which is like, actually we had that at Premonition too, and it was one of the most highly impactful and loved values that we had at Premonition. So I kind of brought it with me here and manifested it slightly differently. But that speaks to psychological safety, doing things as a team, like doing things side by side is who we are. Like and that should lead to that psychological safety and that collaborative environment. And the third one is forever a student, which is we're always committed to our craft, to bettering ourselves. Any opportunity where things don't go our way is an opportunity to learn, and that's how we view stuff. And it's a small thing, but it's like, if something goes bad and say someone in the team was like, oh, this is so shit, and like this didn't work, it's like, forever a student, that's awesome. What did you learn this time? Well, I learned this. What a waste of time. It's like, no, it's not a waste of time because you learned these things. And if you just like, look at the world that way, then nothing is ever going to face you. Yeah,
I love that one. That forever a student one's a good one. We have a similar value. It's but we did a play on with continuous integration and development. Continuous learning and development. So it's like curiosity around always learning and developing yourselves. To be better in the office, outside of the office, and just be better people, but from learning from our mistakes and our successes as well.
Love that.
Yeah.
It's also good because, like, you're very talented and well versed in your field, but you're also a student. You're always a student.
Always. Yeah.
Right.
I think that curiosity and humbleness of being a student, like always learning, because there's always stuff you can learn.
Yeah.
And get better at. And I'm not the Michael Jordan of recruitment.
Yeah. yeah, well, maybe some people think that way, you know? But it's true. It's also funny how the brain works where, how did you become great? Well, I studied and learned. Okay, well, why do you stop? It's not because all of a sudden you know something well, you should stop that process. I'm finished with that now. It's well, that's what got you in. So if you want to get to the next thing, why do you stop a process that's working obviously really well? It's so funny how people stop that.
I actually think people,
maybe they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they don't, but I think they either they get success and and then they think they're reach that sort of pinnacle of it and they don't need to learn as much or as quickly, or they just lack the resources to find people to learn off. So sometimes they get stuck in a job or a big organisation and they reach a point and then they don't have that ability, and then it's not laziness, but it's kind of you're just sort of got those sort of golden handcuffs as to I'm really good at this, I don't need to learn. So it's that situational approach. It's purely just a mindset sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe you lack the exposure to people that you can learn, but maybe also I don't know, maybe your priority is no longer to learn. And for some people that's in situations that's maybe what life demands out of you, and maybe your learning takes a backseat. I don't know.
But I do think people do learn continuously, but just different. It is what you just said, priorities. So probably, unless I'm sure you just get bored otherwise, right?
Yeah. I mean, we stagnate. What is it like? If we stagnate, I mean, you look at people who are at the very end of their life. They're older. If they stay active doing stuff, they live much healthier life. And if you stop, then suddenly it degrades much quicker, and it becomes very obvious at that age.
That's one of how we met was when I gave that talk on flow.
Yes.
But that's the reason why Milhei Csikszentmihalyi came up with that concept of flow was he was studying happiness and who were the most happiest people in the world. All over the world, found people in Italy, Japan, and their lifestyles and behaviours, and he discovered what you were just talking about is how they were involved in some sort of level of work that kept them engaged and learning and developing. But that work could have been anything. But it was valuable to them. So it could have been cooking for their family and ordering the best meal and learning about that. Their garden, as old people, and that promoted the longevity in their life and how they got older. And there was a correlation between happiness and age. Which
I see.
Yeah. And emotional well-being. So, which leads us back to, you just mentioned your previous business premonition. And I didn't know this 5 times founder.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I suppose I've always been a very curious person, and at school I was very, there were 2 things I really enjoyed. I love math.
Yeah.
And in, I was always 1 year ahead in math, so I would walk around in class and people would write their name on the board, and then teacher would scratch one, go help this person. I would be one of the other little helpers who were scratch this one. So I loved math. I also loved design and sketching stuff. And so when uni came around, I was okay, I'm gonna design a car, the next Ferrari. That's what I'm doing. Because it's the perfect combination of math, engineering, and beautiful design. It's for an industrial designer, my opinion, the ultimate object to design. And I learned how hard that is and how few people get to be a car designer. That's I don't know, 7,000 people in the world total, something that does anything to do with car design. And of that, maybe 70 are leads. It's a very, and if you're not Italian or German, it's not happening. Forget about it. So anyways, it's also another funny story how I realized this is too difficult. So I found my passion in business instead. And it's almost a business is a great canvas too, where you can pile the resources, whether it's time or money, and pursue a goal, and you can pursue these ideas. So I found that quite early. And designed websites, did a bunch of things early. And then when I moved to Australia on scholarship at UNSW to study, fun enough, finance and entrepreneurship. Then I started a business, which was a recruiting business.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
It was the Amazing Race meets The Apprentice. So it was this high boiler room style way of vetting candidates, where you solve problems on the fly, and that didn't work. But it was I was too young as well, but it didn't work. But anyways, I have videos of myself coming home and I recorded.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I have to. I'll show you to you. But it was this, basically, people, you have screened a bunch of candidates and they're at the very end of it, and you got maybe 20 you want to hire 5. Which ones exhibit these entrepreneurial qualities and can think on the spot? Okay, let's have them go around to 4 or 5 businesses and solve problems in an hour at each. And then you can see, oh, wow, these ones do really well. They also have to do it as a team, so you see how they work as a team with strangers. And you can kind of see that and go, oh, well, these are the best candidates.
Yeah.
And, it's probably too much effort and people wouldn't go through with it. And, but
great idea in theory, but there's a lot of moving parts in that, and a lot of
that's right. And it's like so it was a lot of things. But anyways, I did that, and then I had another thing called XP with my co-founder Maxim, which was essentially multimedia guides for museums and galleries. So this is back in 2015, 2014. Even before that maybe, where only the MCA and the biggest museum and galleries had apps. And we forget that was a time. But
for sure.
And then all these other galleries wanted to have them as well, but they cost $300,000 or something to make. And it's like, well, and you have to pay an agency. I was like, well, it's crazy. We can't do that. So we built a SaaS platform for museum and galleries to do it themselves. And we had 50, 100 clients, something like that. And we sold that to, the business model was difficult. We can have a whole discussion around that. Yeah. But learned that business model wise, this is hard. So we sold it to another company who had more of a non-for-profit kind of model, and that worked better from a scale point of view. And the person who owned that business was very passionate about the arts, and he was like, I just want to give this to people and better arts. So it was didn't have to make money. So obviously they could scale super fast. But anyways, our clients found a home there, which was great. And then, after that was Balto, which is a courier company, refrigerated courier company. Which
all very different.
Yeah, the idea of that came because I was at the Iconic, and then
that led to a premonition.
Yeah, so I was at the Iconic, and I saw that we've solved shopping online. You can shop on mobile, everything's good. You can pay very easily, but you still don't know when you're going to get your parcel, which is kind of true today as well to a degree. So I was like, I want to solve this problem, but it's obviously, the Iconic was quite a big e-commerce company, and still, it's massive still. But even then, we were quite big quite early, so we worked with Australia Post to hey, can you deliver on Saturdays, can you do this? We try to innovate around the service promise to improve it, but they just couldn't come around to it, and I thought the problem was technology. It's not that they didn't want to do it, we would pay a lot of money for it, but they were like, oh, we can't mobilize the workforce. And
so anyways, it's a human resource problem.
And technology problem where they just couldn't execute on it. So then I thought, oh, well, we should solve this problem. Before I build software, I should know what it's like to be a driver. So why don't I start a courier company? And then that accidentally became a business. And first year we did turnover of $1 million, then 2, then 5 million in the third year. And then we sold to another big player in the industry. Because to be honest, I'd never thought that was going to get so big. During that time, I also met my partners at Premonition, and I was at Fishburners at the time, which is a co-working space here in Sydney. It's not where it is now. Then it was back in Ultimo.
In Ultimo,
the early days, and I announced I'm actually going to build software now, doing this, and then Brad, one of my business partners, Premonition, he was like, well, that's what we're doing, and you should work with us. I'm like, no, we're doing very different things. And then we just had a chat, and we realized that maybe we should join forces. I just joined them. They'd been going for some time before, a few months, and I was like, why don't I join as a partner with you guys? All right, let's do it.
Fair.
So that's how that came about.
Wow. That's so fascinating. That courier business is fascinating. So it was what, a fridge courier company?
Refrigerated courier. So deliver for the likes of HelloFresh, Marley Spoon. Anyone who has frozen refrigerated goods.
So that was just a market that wasn't really disrupted or just
it was not. It was very underserviced, and all I said was hey. I remember going to, I think HelloFresh was our first customer. And I was like, hey, I want to do some deliveries. Cool. How much do you charge per delivery? We charge this much. All right, I will charge the same. And I guarantee that 95% of them will be on time and done properly. And for anything that's not delivered on time, you don't have, I'm not going to charge you. And that sounds like a very basic thing, but none of the others were doing that, and their performance wasn't very good, and they didn't take any responsibility for their service. And all I said was I'm just going to take responsibility for it. And they were like, cool, here's a run, get a van. So I got a van, drove around, and then like that went really well. Do you want to do it again? I was like, yeah, sure, I can do it again. Hey, do you have more drivers? Do you want to do more? I was like, no, I didn't really plan on it, but like let's incorporate. And okay, fine, I can do a few drivers.
Got a few more. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had like 100 drivers on roster in the end.
No way.
Like but like
100 drivers.
Yeah, but they were contractor basis, so not everybody working on the same day.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's I didn't know that either.
Very random.
Yeah, super random. But I think like a lot of and that was like more like a what you would say like a brick and mortar business.
Yes, yeah.
Wheels and cart business, but that came idea from like I can solve it with technology, but you solved it with people by the sound.
Yes.
Yeah, and disrupted it that way.
Yeah, because I was like, I wanted to learn what it's like to be a driver.
Yeah.
If I'm going to build software for the world of logistics in that industry, it helps to know what it's like to be on the
100%.
receiving end of that software.
Yeah.
And you learn so much about the day-to-day workflows. A lot of people build tech and like, yeah, this is great, and you build it in an office. When you get out on the road and you actually try to deliver parcels, you build a very different solution versus what you'd build in a nice Figma design file.
And that's kind of like that skill set of being that founder. It's like you're the product manager, you're the sales, you're the thing. You have that exposure of everything because you've been that end user. Or what we were talking about just then, so it makes a hell of a lot of sense. It reminds me of I saw that the pitch video of the DoorDash company guys.
Right,
and all four of them were drivers. In Palo Alto or something. I can't remember. I think that's where it was.
Yes,
and
that's right.
Yeah, that's where like that was like their sort of basis of coming up with DoorDash because they had that experience, the foundation of.
Yeah, then they delivered themselves first.
Yeah, exactly.
Which makes total sense. Like same as Airbnb, they listed their own mattress first, and like it's just like it really helps. I mean, it should be. It's weird to isolate it as a tech because it should be innate. Like if you're trying to solve a problem, live the life of your customer. Like it should not be something that you should do. Or what are my 5 things to succeed? Oh, I should think like the customer. Like it's hard. Like obviously, if you don't have that innately, you should do that. But I feel like the people that are most successful, they're just innately like that. I just like always like, I love to be in the shoes of the customer. At Premonition, we would don our safety vests and go out in the warehouse all the time, deliver parcels. Like we'd be out there. We called ourselves nerds in safety vests, which worked really well. But it's like, we really were nerds in safety vests. Again, yeah. They were like, oh, here comes the propeller heads again, you know? They're going to fix the app.
How good. Yeah, it's such a great approach. And I think one of the last questions, you were talking about being your background of being design-led. What do you mean, like, as being a design-led founder? Is that sort of touching about what we were mentioning then, like design based off the problems that you've just uncovered and what you've learned? Yeah,
so I feel like there are not many designers who become founders of businesses. It's, a rare breed.
All right.
I find many come from a business background or a technical background typically. But so as a design founder, I feel like the problem that we've identified with, hey, the world of numbers is not very accessible. I have to navigate through spreadsheet coding or SQL, whatever it is. Like it's like this complicated layer is by and large a design challenge. Like we already have the power to perform most of the calculation. Like take something like Excel, even that like most people use 1% of what Excel can do. So people don't need all this other stuff. There are people that do, obviously, but then it becomes a design challenge for people rather than a question of do you have the power and the tech. And yeah, I feel like that's a very good founder problem fit for me because it combines the math and the design challenge of the whole thing with my engineering and design background. So I think being design-led is a lot around, applying the skill set of a designer as a solution to a problem. If you were solving a deep tech problem where it's mostly around atoms and bits, say something like Moore's Micro or something where Wi-Fi in remote areas, industrial design is like kind of helpful, but mostly it's about can you scientifically find a breakthrough on how to move electrons so that you don't use enough. That's more of a founder fit with that. But I feel for me, being a design-led founder, I think this is a very good problem founder fit for me because it suits my skill set. It's also funny because you end up making mistakes that you don't see others relate to. So, as a design, like people are like, oh, these are top founder mistakes, and there are many of them that I make too, but many of them I don't make because I don't think like that, but I make my own. So as a design founder, I spend way too much time on like the design and like, and it's like, I'm having Figma 3 days in the office. Like the team is like, Nick, no Figma for 2 days. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
I need a Figma details. What am I going to do?
Oh, what am I going to work on? But then that forces me to do the things I should be doing as well. But then you can't just say, like some people say, oh, design is like worthless. Like, no, well, if the problem is I literally don't understand how to use this interface, then design is not worthless. It's like super important because that's a whole part of the solution. But if you're applying a bunch of design to a solution where that's not important, okay, I get it. But this is what I mean. The most of the world doesn't have those type of problems. So I suppose that's what I mean by that.
Yeah. Whereas Claro is about that. It's like giving that intuitive.
Large part of it, yeah.
Yeah, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. Awesome. All right. I think that's a good way to sort of draw the end of the pod, mate.
Nice.
Into it. Yeah.
Nice. Where are your nuggets? You know, everybody want to hear about.
This isn't about me. This isn't about me. This is about you. This is about the value that we give to the community here. And
nice.
I think there was so much there, mate. Like from your background, your story, particularly like I think a lot of people that we've had on the pod before. It's either their first or second journey.
Right.
And I think, and they've done really well, like due to a bit of luck, or they've partnered with a co-founder who had those big problems and they were the tech person behind it.
I see.
And applied that knowledge. Whereas hearing your story, particularly the 5 different stories and the innovative, it's kind of like that, the innovator problem dilemma that you've just sort of described. And I love that story about how you're trying to solve that problem of the courier business and with technology, and you just want to get them, and then that just blew up to a business by itself. Which is, you know, I think a lot of struggling entrepreneurs, they listen into it and like, fuck, how do you do that? You know?
Yeah, well, hopefully it's, you know, at the end of the day, hopefully some of what I've shared is helpful to people. And if people love the idea of Claro and think that's going to be helpful to them, please reach out. But also, if they found that any of the, I don't know, advice or stories that I shared was helpful and they feel like they want more or double click or have a situation maybe I can be helpful to, then yeah, feel free to reach out.
How do we get in touch with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, look for this face and the matching picture, Niklas Olsson. I'm sure the name will probably be correctly spelled in the the title.
Yeah, we'll get that right.
Or it's just niklas@klaroapp.com.
Beauty.
Yeah.
Awesome. Niklas, thanks very much for your time.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Good stuff.
Yeah, that was awesome.